House in Baltimore. We really know what that's going to feel like when the Cincinnati Bengals come calling on September the 10th. Lots of fake football ahead. This guy is one of the guys that really enjoys him some fake football here and some job battles. He is the NFL national lead writer at Bleacher Report, as well as the co-author of the Football Outsiders Almanac, which is freshly minted. He joins us from his estate somewhere near the swamps of Jersey. He is Mike Tanier. We welcome him back here. You can follow him out at Bleacher Report, as well as on Twitter at Mike Tanier. That's Tanier. Dude, before I nerd it up with you, and you do have this crazy football strategy thing from 1962 from Baltimore, Maryland, the Avalon Company, out on your Twitter. Little known fact is you are a math nerd, right? You're a math teacher at heart with a football concentration, right? Sort of, kind of?
That's right. Former math teacher for 17 years in the state of New Jersey with a little bit of a science bent, with a love of the science. And, yeah, with the Football Outsiders Almanac, we bring a little math and a little bit of science to the world of enjoying and evaluating football.
Well, all of you MIT guys that turn to football, when there is a solar eclipse on a Monday, and I said to my wife, I'm embarrassed that we did not fly to my mom's hometown of Abbeville, South Carolina, where it was in totality of darkness, and my mom passed last week. I said, it's kind of a shame we didn't go and sort of celebrate it and do that, because that's where I would have wanted to be. But the Grand Tetons look phenomenal. The beach in Charleston looked pretty badass. Even that stadium in Carbondale where the clouds came and whatnot. But for anyone who loves science, and I know you do, and you love math, and you love the science of football in a lot of ways, that was one of those things I think that kind of brought people together in kind of a cool way. And I always love the stars and the moon and the solar system, but I need to see me a solar eclipse now. I need to live long enough.
Yeah, you know what? I love it, and I'm really shocked. I went on Monday on social networks, and people were talking about how lame it was. Certainly, if you weren't in the totality, it wasn't as exciting as it was in some of those places where it was pitch black out. But you know what? My 11-year-old and my wife, they put together one of those experiments. They went out there in the front yard with a piece of paper, and you can see the little crescent shape, and we did all that stuff, and it was fabulous. We had a great time. So people who are on Twitter all the time talking about how lame everything is, don't lose your sense of wonder. Stuff like that is what you put into it. The more you learn about it and the more you engage it, the better it is. I guess it's kind of like preseason football in that way, except that it's majestic and wonderful, not inherently lame. And that's it. Sometimes we have to get off of our cell phones a little bit, get out there and actually see what's happening in the world and in the cosmos as well.
Well, yeah, and, for the cosmos this week, it'll be certainly much more exciting than watching fake football. I'll tell you that, man. Dude, this really, really sucks. And, I used to fly off to these games back in the late 90s. And, I was down in Atlanta when Michael Vick had his leg broken in the preseason game by Dallas Thomas. And I used to find some sort of value in it. And I guess I just liked the adult entertainment in Atlanta, perhaps, at that point. But we played in Miami and New Orleans this year. And after we almost got killed in Katrina in 06, I really just decided, even if it's the third and always important preseason game, that I can bail on it. This one's here in Baltimore. They're playing the Bills this week. Only bad things happen in these games, Mike.
Yeah, bad things happen, and sometimes you get absolutely nothing out of it. I look at the Ravens game against the Dolphins last week. I went through and I watched it, tried to get something out of it, but I'm watching the backup quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens against a brand new quarterback in Jay Cutler of the Miami Dolphins, and the Dolphins get Cutler out of there after 2 series. So after a while, you're like, what am I watching? When it's backup on backup, person who's not expected to play versus person who's not expected to play, what is the real value of this? And obviously for coaches, there's all kinds of things they can evaluate, but for the rest of us, it's not really very useful, and it's really not that very interesting unless there's a quarterback controversy or a rookie getting a lot of snaps and all. So, yeah, this year there has not been a crazy amount of injuries. There have not been a lot of like league-changing injuries. But you're right, the third game is coming. That's the dress rehearsal game. That's the one where guys play the most. That's the ones you have to be the most worried about. And that's the one where I think a lot of teams just have to come in and say they want to go out there, they want to evaluate, make the final decisions, and really fine-tune things, but be smart at the same time.
Mike, for the Ravens and for all of our fans here, and look, you're up there in the swamps of Jersey near Philly. Our Philadelphia guy, the back hasn't been good. He hasn't been on the field. They're trying to get him to the field. I don't know what the level of confidence can possibly be from a Ravens fan perspective who has watched Ryan Mallett run around to say anything short of, if Joe Flacco can't go out there and do it 12 to 14 times this year, they're really not going to have much of a chance. And even if he goes out there successfully 16 times and stays upright and never takes a bad turn and rebounds physically from the knee issue from 2 years ago, there are a lot of moving parts here, dude, on this offensive line. Who's going to run the ball? How they're going to run the ball? How they're going to throw the ball? Who's going to catch the ball? Everything about this offense, other than I would say Marshall Yanda, who is a year older as well, is really under full evaluation. And I don't know that any of this crap against the Bills this week or the Saints next week is going to shed any light on this, short of what happens after they kick the ball off out in Cincinnati in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think what you want to see is some stability on that offensive line, which you didn't see against the Dolphins in those first team sessions. You saw some of the guys, Stanley and the other kid who was playing up against Ndamukong Suh, get pushed around a little bit.
Skurza,
Jensen playing, Jensen playing center, and you guys bringing Zutta back in to try and solidify that. You want to see that play adequately because you can't really evaluate anything else. I would also add that receivers holding on to the darn football is something you need to see after a couple of fumbles and strips and things like that in the last 2 weeks. But, the Joe Flacco thing right now, there's so much to unpack because there is a little bit of a fear of what you're going to get in week one. I think you're going to get Joe Flacco in week one, but you're going to get a very rickety Joe Flacco. You're going to get a very rusty Joe Flacco because you need the absolute peak of this quarterback to make anything else go in this offense, because I don't think that the weapons are outstanding right now. I don't think the offensive line is going to be the best of the best right now. And a Flacco at 80% or 75% or afraid to take a hit is almost as bad as not having Flacco. That said, I think everyone has seen now for 2 weeks, Ryan Mallett is pitiful. Ryan Mallett is kind of an embarrassing person to put out there and say, oh, this is a backup quarterback that may have to start a few games now and then as a spot starter. If he's somebody that you were putting out there right away, you're right. The whole season's in jeopardy. You don't know what you have on offense at any other position, and it would just be a very bad situation for the Baltimore Ravens to have to rely on him.
Mike Tanier joining us here, NFL National Lead Writer at Bleach Report, as well as the co-author of the Football Outsiders Almanac, which we're going to plug at length here before it's all over with. And, for you with the Kaepernick thing and what kind of player he is, talk about where you are on evaluating him as if he were here instead of Ryan Mallett, as an example.
Well, if he was there in Baltimore, you'd have a chance to win some games because your quarterback has an incredible amount of athleticism and an incredible amount of experience and is not as bad a pocket quarterback as all that. And, that's where you get into this weird thing. It seems like everybody's out there saying, well, Colin Kaepernick is not a very good pocket quarterback. And then when you start pressing them a little bit, those people all of a sudden have political opinions as well about Colin Kaepernick. So it might not just be, straight from John Gruden's mind into theirs. It might be something else there. But who's not a very good pocket quarterback at all in any stretch of the imagination? Ryan Mallett. Just because you stand in the pocket and you're a quarterback does not mean you're a good pocket quarterback because you're just a terrible quarterback, and that's what he's been proving time and time again. Colin Kaepernick does complete passes in the pocket, does it relatively consistently. What he doesn't necessarily do is that high-level Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees thing. Well, the only quarterbacks who do that are the three guys who just named right there. So you have somebody who, in Colin Kaepernick, could hit the first read when that first read is available to him. Then you have somebody who will make plays on the run because we all know he's very capable of doing that, whether it's just running for first downs or tossing the ball, for short completions when he's on the run. The third thing that Colin Kaepernick does very well is he avoids interceptions. Now, that can be a double-edged sword because you're scrambling quarterbacks a lot of times. They take off and run. Maybe they get sacked for a loss of 2. Maybe they throw the ball away and they don't throw that interception. And, if you're really watching things saying, yeah, well, your Drew Brees, your Aaron Rodgers would have connected on an 8-yard pass during that. If you're a team like the Ravens, who should have a strong defense, who should have an outstanding special teams with Justin Tucker, and you just want to have some ball control on offense, you want that risk-averse quarterback. So all those things point to Colin Kaepernick would have been a good selection for the Baltimore Ravens. Why wasn't Colin Kaepernick a selection for Baltimore Ravens? We've heard the myriad of usual excuses for that. The bottom line is we come into September, that could wind up losing games for the organization. And that's on the ownership and the coaching staff to decide if that's really what was worth whatever political or economic or whatever you want to call it stance they made. with not signing Kaepernick.
Mike Tanier joining us here. He is the co-author of Football Outsiders Almanac. Go ahead and plug that for me, because I do want to go around the league a little bit with you and talk about some stuff outside of the Ravens, but I know you do this at a very, very high level along with Aaron as well, and I wanted to give you guys both a chance to come on before the beginning of the season and tell everybody about it, because people do look to me to try to get a little smarter about football, and I look to guys like you and all of the people that I talk to that run in the club of covering these teams, and there are a lot of analytics out there right now, and some of it's gobbledygook, and some of it really kind of breaks it down and makes you a better football fan, right?
Yeah, and we keep the gobbledygook to a minimum. I'm not going to say that some of it isn't a little bit overly complicated if you're just trying to figure out what the Ravens are going to do and what your fantasy team looks like. But we break it down in ways that you can actually use. And this is hundreds of pages with team chapters and player comments and fantasy advice and all kind of things like that, and a lot of statistics as well. And, some of the statistics are very high-tech stuff, like the DVOA, which is kind of like a power ranking that you can break down a lot of different ways. But if you want to know which teams run the most two tight end sets, we have that for you. You don't have to really figure that out. The most empty backfields, we have things like that. What receivers get thrown too short, what receivers get thrown too long, which receivers drop passes. A lot of details like that don't require a math degree to figure out. You just might want to be curious. How often does Mike Wallace thrown too deep? How often is he thrown to a screen pass? How does that compare to Michael Caponero, et cetera? We have all of those breakdowns in there, and plus we have chapters written by myself, written by Aaron Schatz, written by Cian Fahey, the quarterback guru who's all over the internet right now, written by Greg Bedard, longtime Boston Globe writer and columnist. He wrote a couple of chapters for us. So there's something in it for everyone, hundreds of pages. You order it now. It's on Amazon. It's wherever you buy books. It comes, and you've got that companion for the second half of the preseason game when you're kind of tired of watching the fourth stringers. Come read us. We'll get you a little bit more prepared for what the backups and starters are really going to look like when the season starts.
Lots of places where there's growing optimism. I hear so much out of Tampa, so much out of Tennessee. Clearly Oakland has some level of confidence coming back, although I do have some doubts about the quarterbacking situation there. But where is your level of optimism for some players or some systems or some teams to flourish?
I think Tennessee is really at the top of the list right now. I think they have such a great combination of a scheme that makes sense and a scheme that exotic smash mouth power running scheme that they use that really informs what kind of players they go out and get. They get fullbacks. They got Mariota, the scrambling quarterback. They got receivers that can kind of catch those screen passes and stuff that they want to use as a counterbalance to all that power running. And now they've built a defense. So I think that's a very strong overall team that doesn't have a lot of questions to answer right now. A weird team that I've just started bubbling up on my radar with is the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid's old team out there in Kansas City. And you start by saying, well, it's the same old, same old. They drafted their quarterback of the future, but they want Alex Smith to be the starter, and it's Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and those same old guys. If you look at them from top to bottom, they're not very weak anywhere. And then you look at the AFC West around them, and you see the Raiders, who I think have real problems at their cornerback and safety and linebacker positions right now. You have the Broncos, who on Monday selected Trevor Siemian, the quarterback again, meaning they're going to go 8-8 again because they don't really have a quarterback. You look at the Chargers, and everybody's injured, and they don't have a stadium, and they have all this mess. Chiefs are out there just kind of playing the tortoise and the hare. They're out there just running the things the way Andy Reid always runs them. When that happens, they emerge at the end with this 11-win season where they didn't shock anybody in any one position, but they were balanced across a lot of different positions.
Well, and for the Ravens, at least one side of the ball, when we talk about our team, the defense really does look kind of shut down right now, and it really feels like they have the best kicker in the sport, and you can laugh at that or whatever, but if it gets you an extra 3 points every 2 weeks, that's going to win 3 or 4 ball games for you, over the course of time, doing the math on that, Mike Tanier. But, for the Ravens defense, how good can it be? And I would say this, I don't think anybody's going to run on the Ravens, and that then opens it up to say, well, is the defense going to be able to go up in the air and get the ball a la Ed Reed, or is this going to be one of these broken down injury things and the problems that they've had in the past where they can't get a pass rush and they can't stop a 3rd and 11?
nobody's going to run on this team. Nobody's going to run on Brandon Williams, and Michael Pierce is really coming around, and he's emerging as a young star on this team, and Urban, the other defensive lineman. Nobody's going to run on those guys. I think the secondary is going to be pretty strong overall. Ladarius Webb now kind of reimagining himself as like an all-purpose safety nickel guy. That's a good role for him. I think that the young players in the secondary could come around. So I'm not too worried about the defense. The question is, will it be that like super high-level Ravens defense, that Ray Lewis, Ed Reed type? I don't think it's necessarily there. And then we look back at the offense, and it's like, will it be that adequate offense of the Super Bowl year or one of those offenses? And we're not sure that's there yet. So it's a matter of, and of course, Tucker, you throw him in, and you know you're going to get some 50-yard field goals whenever you need them. So it's a matter of, are you winning these games 19-13 and 16-10 and 22-16, or are you losing the games by that scores because the offense couldn't come around or the offense turned the ball over and put the defense in a position where it couldn't succeed? We know what kind of football the Ravens are going to play. We know it's not going to be super terrible because the defense and special teams are too good, and I'm not sure anyone thinks it's going to be super phenomenal 13-win stuff because the weapons just aren't there on offense and so many injuries. It's all in that 6-10 to 10-6 realm. Is it a tough defensive win or a tough defensive loss? Those are the questions that we have to start answering as the season approaches, and we start looking to things that need to get fixed, like the offensive line.
Mike Tanier covers all things football and National Football League action, and the co-author of Football Outsiders Almanac. You can follow him out at Bleacher Report, as well as at Mike Tanier. That's Tanier. He's one of our favorites and one of our defending champions around here. And look, man, anytime anybody writes about current Steelers, former Steelers, Harrison, which I know you're writing about this week at Bleacher Report and doing some work as well, the Steelers are better than the Ravens right now on paper. Now, that can get sorted out. We got a short week on the back end of our London trip. We'll see the Steelers the first week of October. But, that's kind of a tough thing to swallow around here, is this perception that they could win 13 games and the perception that the Ravens could lose 10, let's say.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's what it looks like on paper, and I spent several days out of Steelers camp, and that's what it looks like out there in Steelers camp because their receiving core has been upgraded. I got to see some of the young guys out there like Juju Smith-Schuster. When I was out there, Bryant was not yet playing, but he was clearly in great shape, and he was on the sidelines, and he went out the other day and did pretty well in a couple of series against the Falcons. I saw the defense, and the defensive front seven looks strong. I tell you right now, J.J. Watt is not just J.J. Watt's T.J. Watt is not just J.J. Watt's little brother. He's his own man, and he's coming around. He's going to be one of those edge rushers that you get scared of for the Steelers. Their front seven is strong, maybe not quite as strong as the Ravens front seven, but they have these strengths in other places. Obviously, when Le'Veon Bell comes back, that's going to upgrade their running game. So you look up and down that roster, and it's a very veteran roster. It's a very solid roster, and it can absorb some injuries because it's a pretty deep roster. And also, they remain the team to beat. Anything can happen when the season starts. But if you're looking for real on-paper reasons to say, well, we're going to catapult the Ravens past the Steelers right now, it's impossible to do, and that's really even compounded by the fact that all the injuries take away even a little bit of the enthusiasm that you would have had if the Ravens were totally healthy.
Well, we will hang in there. You got any hope for the Bengals this year? I mean, I'm beginning to become worried a little bit. All reports out of their camp are, they look like a veteran team that's sort of reloaded in some of the key positions there. And I don't know that Joe Mixon would have been a good fit here, but certainly there where they say, who they going to arrest next? That it's not a problem out there. We have them in the opener, and we'll be underdogs, I'm sure. And that's without knowing whether Joe Flacco is going to be upright.
Well, the big question on their end is their offensive line, where they replaced a couple of guys. They've got Cedric Agbuchi, I believe his name is, Jake Fisher. Those are young, third-year, inexperienced linemen that they're expected to come in. I haven't had a great evaluation on those guys yet. I've seen Mixon running for his life a few times in some of the film that I've watched of them, which might mean that their offensive line is not in great shape. And that's a real problem because that puts them in the same boat that the Ravens are in. If offensive line isn't working, Andy Dalton isn't going to run around in circles like Russell Wilson and make plays. They do have some good skill position talent out there. They do have like a pretty stout overall defense. But I don't see them as above the Ravens in anything right now. I think they've got to prove it because they did do so much work on their offensive line. they're in the same boat. We'll learn when it happens, but don't be like totally blown away by what they look like on paper at the skill and fantasy positions right now, because it might be a little bit of a clay feet situation because of some of the questions they have in the trenches.
Hey, man, always great to talk some football with you. Good luck out there with the Football Outsiders Almanac. Tell everybody how to get that thing.
You can get the Football Outsiders Almanac anywhere you buy online type books. Go to Amazon. Just type in Football Outsiders Almanac, or visit footballoutsiders.com. We are the producers and writers of Football Outsiders Almanac. You'll see a big banner. You click through that, and a little bit of extra juice comes back our way. You pay the same amount, and we get a little bit more. So that might be the best way to do it. footballoutsiders.com.
Oh, I want your kids to be able to afford one of the great lenses for the 2024 solar eclipse that will be passing over apparently Buffalo and Erie and Cleveland. I said to my wife, we'll catch that somewhere like in Vermont, next time around, Hey, great to have you on, man. Keep the faith and hope to see you some football games here soon, okay?
Same with you, man. Take care and enjoy the rest of the fake football.
You got it, man. Musician, mathematician, and internet football rock star Mike Tanier, Tanier, joins us. You can follow him out on Twitter as well as at Bleacher Report and Football Outsiders Almanac. One of the good ones up there in the swamps of Jersey. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. The morning newspaper delivers to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's powered up by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. That is always $10 a month at Planet Fitness. Get there, get yourself in shape. Summer's wasting away. No better time to join than now. No better time to get inspired than now. I'm a little inspired after my mom's death. So I'm out there at Planet of Triumphs, getting a little inspiration to go along with things. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And I am a very available individual, Nasty at WNST.net. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.